We could do some remarketing, we could do some RSA, we could do some dynamic marketing. The website can't buy. Just reading a blog before I came out about the Adobe produced a quarterly report on advertising activity, and they said that they think Q4 Google's cost per click advertising or the click-through rate on average. It's their alternative to marketers being better, which seems unlike, no, it doesn't sound like, you know, at any, the stats from Adobe. There's a blog post on search engine. I'm like, had this been switched on like the do pictures? I don't know, click, I was really going, that's all. Yeah, unless everyone's moved their budget from keynotes to Google Shows, that seems incredibly unlikely. I think it's a bit about battleground tourism as well.
Could you just stand?
Don't like that.
Sorry? Yeah.
My own.
Still need you to stand there.
This is not live, is it?
Well, yeah, we're going live in a moment, but I just need you to stand there so I can see what's going on.
My original title was Why We Don't Spend Money.
Can I leave?
It's entirely to do with the way that people are introduced. I think it's probably for a year or two out late, probably ought to. But at least that's good. It's a weird thing because like the way that people are
Could you just stand there for us, please? Don't mind. Yeah, about there.
I didn't play ball. I'm glad you waited for me to finish my stove.
That's all right.
Word of mouth recommendation. Word of mouth recommendation and traditional print advertising, which always it's just really good company name. Somebody puts.
That's all right. There's like a minute delay on it, so we just got you doing this.
It's only now, yeah.
Even though we sell that,
I think if we've got people stood kind of halfway between the sign and the screen, that's probably going to be best bet.
Yeah.
So we just get the screen lined up.
Really, really 2 years ago, people search for
I think it's quite delayed. We actually did that in the first 2 years.
they're searching for something so specific.
Is that enough for you to finish it?
Yeah, could do with it. The only thing is everybody appears quite dark, so you can see you're in there. It's fairly
I
dark.
see, yeah.
It's not too bad. I mean, it was worse before.
It would be better on this side,
Well,
is it?
actually, maybe if you can just stand under the light. So if we go. Just try that for a minute. You might get like a gloomy face there. Unless we can get like a table lamp or something like that, just a bit of light from that.
Just to come across this way,
So
yeah.
that might be good.
Properly, do
Yeah, it is good. So we did it there last time. It's quite dark.
Getting them to us. to us not bad. Quite difficult.
Is it up yet?
We probably do just sit down.
Can you even see my camera range here?
Sorry? No, not yet. No, in fact, no. I think they have got to be.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
You should be there.
And it's interesting because the Facebook ads have changed massively in the last 6 months. The Google's changed massively in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's at least double check this.
Yeah.
Stuff done.
It's just scary how much Google is inside your life.
Your first my name.
My feet up in the bed.
Yes, it's amazing. We still get away with that.
Are you hanging out on there again?
Craziness like this, trying to sort of see two children and kind of have play dates and do all that sort of stuff and try and do work at the same time. It's just kind of what it's like. It's quite scary actually. No, my children are already quite
I've had to develop an interest in steam, which I've never had.
my youngest is a boy and he gets awesome Lego.
You could meet all the guys from the boys group, the boys group. It's all the same boys group.
So we do everything from photography, video,
I've been to a few.
Hey, Rob.
No, different.
Yeah, how's it going? All right?
Good man. Do you want a drink as well as a tea or coffee?
No, I'm all right. I'm
sure?
driving, so I'm going to have my one regulation Peroni in a minute.
I'm persuaded Andrea. Or are you still on catch up when you bust your arm and couldn't drive?
That's nearly a year ago now.
Yeah. I was just wondering whether whether you had like a really long list of credits. No, your turn to drive.
Still, unfortunately, in credit. But,
really traumatic driving is you have to be in condition on the
that was traumatic.
Yeah. I just trying to remember, was that quite simple silent assembly? But they only do the ones that are no. I just got a friend who's got this cool product. Yeah, no, it's cool. No, I just got a friend who's got a cool one. He's got this thing, which is quite interesting. And I just thought, basically, Christmas Day, really nice. Got back and since then I had to go to a business meeting, trip to Istanbul. So I pretty cool. I wouldn't necessarily rush back, it's quite interesting.
Well, so for the last few years, I was we haven't
Like here.
my last so I think it was a nice way to finish the challenge. So that's a start. It's a lot of negative stuff and then move more to positive. I had a very we did what we were consensus as but then before that, I was no, I'm definitely more I'm more that's another one I had to it's quite like she's like one yeah, someone like So, I mean, it's interesting.
Ultimately responsible for the market.
When you walk in,
Oh yeah, you can't beat it.
it seems to go to that one. So again, another big thing is that the illusion of the best hours to go to so that's the sort of thing
Have a fluffy friend too. Have a fluffy friend. The whole site, the whole thing, quick overview. I need to get a few more questions
I leave it
Okay, folks, are you ready? Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. I hope those of you that are facing backwards don't mind sort of turning your chairs and just getting yourself into a place that you can see us at the front. Just so that everyone's aware, this event is being filmed and broadcast online, and we have colleagues across Cornwall that are joining us this evening. So if you have any questions and answers, if you could save them until the end of the speakers' slots, because the people listening online won't be able to hear the questions, and we'll deal with all of those at the end. But these events are pretty informal. We want to gather some discussion and allow people to ask questions and form debates. So please feel free to ask any questions, however silly they are. Someone else will be in the same position as you. This is the actual 7th meetup of this kind that we've organised now. They started back in this time in 2013, and we run about 3 a year. They're organised by those of us who do it in our own time, and the aim is really to help us all keep up to date in what is a really fast-changing industry. And learning from people that do digital marketing for a living is the best way that we can find to keep up to date with developments in the industry and be able to rub shoulders with changes that are coming and whether we think they're going to be important or not. So I must say a big thanks in advance to all of our speakers as normal who've given up their time and they're going to give their knowledge for free to be here this evening. And also a big thank you to Export Cornwall who have sponsored this and our last event as well, which means that we've actually got the venue and the refreshments, and they wouldn't be able to take place without them. In return, for those people in the room, if you could sign one of these forms for me and just leave it on the desk before you leave, then this is just really is a record of who's attended and the number of people that have attended tonight. So it's really important that you do that for me, please. Tonight's speakers, we're delighted to have Chloe Thomas, who's creator of the e-commerce master plan, and Chloe's going to be giving you some top tips on selling overseas. This event will have an overseas theme because of the Export Cornwall link. We're delighted to have Jim Stanning from Fourth Element, and the reason for asking Jim along is he's got some content titled The Shag Project, and that is purely the reason for asking Jim, so I won't say any more about that, but he's going to share some of his experiences in marketing to the Far East markets in particular. So thanks to Jim very much for coming. I've probably spoilt your thunder there. And as usual we have Rob Edlin from Nidux, who always gives us some Google magic, and tonight he's going to be talking about scripting, automation and programmatic buying. As I say, we'll do Q&As at the end. Just a quick couple of I looked up, but there was an article I read at the weekend around 2015 marketing jargon, and these are some of the terms that you may or may not have heard of that are going to be big in 2015 apparently. So the term something jack, as in hijack, is going to be big. We mean firms exploiting events in the news to promote their brand. So we're going to be hearing about newsjacking, brand jacking, trend jacking, click jacking, crisis jacking. Okay, so look out for that one. For those of us that you've heard of B2C, B2B, B2C, the new one is going to be H2H, which is about human to human contact, which is apparently an effort to make people talking to you seem less soulless PR droids and more like real people. Conversation marketing rides off the back of that, which is basically encompassed as brands pestering you like they're your friends on social media. Content, more important than ever. Authenticity is imperative to instill trust in your customers, and much easier access to personal data through social media analytics. So those are just some things to start from me. Okay, so I'll hand over to Chloe now. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Emma, and hi everyone. As Emma said, I'm Chloe Thomas. I'm the author of these 3 beautiful books on e-commerce. The third one of which, on the far right, your right, my left, over there, is about to come out in paperback. And I have 3 copies, pre-release copies. It's a whole week before they're officially available. So if anyone wants them who's in the room, please come and find me later on. One's gone already, 2's gone already. Please do come and see me about those. But today, what I want to talk to you, I've kind of split my piece into 2 sections. One is kind of why in the world of e-commerce we should be looking to go international, why it's a huge opportunity for us. And the second one is the 3 kind of key critical starting points to go down that route. And I should also say that most of what I'm going to be talking about is applicable to non-e-commerce businesses as well as to e-commerce businesses. So please don't zone out if you're not in. So why international? This is a lovely little infographic which shows the e-commerce turnover, so the online retailing turnover of various countries around the world. And as you can see, the UK is one of the largest as an e-commerce sector, but there's a lot of money still all over the place that we're not yet getting. So this slide is to demonstrate why international. Well, because there's an awful lot of money out there we can get our hands on. The average means is that the UK consumer pounds. Down in Germany, they'll spend on average £394. What that means is it's both an indication of the fact we have one of the most advanced e-commerce industries in the world. We are incredibly good at e-commerce. It also means we have an awful lot of competitors. This is a very competitive marketplace here in the UK, which you just don't get overseas. And it also means our consumers are really, really savvy. So our consumers are the most difficult ones to get to buy online in many ways because they've got so much opportunity. They're so used to buying online. That gives us a huge amount of skills we can take and use overseas to increase our turnover by looking at another marketplace. Data that Google pulled together. And what the balance of payments means is how much do our consumers in the UK spend overseas on online sites versus how much people from overseas spend on our websites. And what's the difference between those two? Basically, the bigger the bubble, the larger the amount of money, and the higher up it is, the better. So, in the UK, we rule. We're pretty much the only people with a positive balance of payments. We are pretty much the only e-commerce industry in the world where more consumers from overseas spend more money with us than our own consumers spend overseas. So we have a positive of just over £1 billion. $1 billion, I should say, in 2013. The USA are just kind of on the cusp, and everyone else is losing money. Their own customers are spending more with websites overseas than other overseas are spending with them. So we're already better at export e-commerce than anyone else in the world. So in this country, actually in some ways in this room, we have more expertise than anywhere else in order to go and make those sales overseas. But before you start doing that, we need to consider a few things. So here are my kind of quick fire 3 critical tips for global e-commerce success. And I should warn you, on the first couple of these slides, you're going to get a slightly honest view into what my world looks like, okay? Because I'm trying to do images this year. So first off, this is the usual state of my desk. About once every 2 years, I make it as clean as the one on the right-hand side, but generally it looks more like the chaos that exists on the left-hand side. The first thing you need to do before going overseas and selling overseas is to get your house in order. For 2 reasons. One, because anything you take overseas, you do your e-commerce business in Australia and America and you target those, every single problem you've got in the UK is going to be replicated when you go overseas. So fix it before you start selling overseas, or you're just duplicating your. The other reason to get your house in order is because it takes time to go overseas. It's not just cut and paste a website. You've actually got to put some extra effort in. So you need to do that delegation, fix those niggles to give yourself the time and the space to do that new venture. So get your house in order, number 1. Number 2, this is what my desk looks like when I'm on a train, is all about research. You've got to do your research. And actually that's quite easy from an e-commerce perspective, not least because you've got the likes of Export Cornwall, who can do an awful lot of help with helping you work out which country you should be going into. But you've got your own Google Analytics stats. Which countries currently arrive on your website? What do they currently spend on your website? I was at a talk in London where a very large mail order business selling shirts was talking about their international policy, and they said the reason they opened a website in Australia was because they were already selling £1 million worth of shirts a year to Australia. That's research you can't. You know, that's absolutely awesome to help you work out which country you should be going into. So take a look at your stats. Take a look at what else is out there, what competition there are in different countries, what search volumes there are in different countries. Huge amounts of this you can do right there from your own desk to work out which countries look good for your products and for your business. And like, I won't get into the technicalities of that because there's other people who know a lot more about it than I do, but there's a huge amount of research you can do to really make those decisions quite straightforward for you. Once you've done that, of course, you have to, at some point, researching and get on with giving it a go. You know, we can all spend all day, all night researching, but at some point we've got to put our money where our mouth is and try and do some selling overseas. So this is where we come to bullets before cannonballs, and this is something from a book called Great by Choice by a guy called Jim Collins. It's an absolutely brilliant read, and one of the key tenets he talks about is bullets before cannonballs. What that essentially means is fire a few bullets to get your gun calibrated right before you send all your marketing activity, all your activity towards that country. So do a little test in the country which you're thinking of going into before you build your entire UK website in a foreign language with a different currency, dealing with their unusual payment methods. You know, if you go to Germany, you have to do Rechnung, which is basically you ship them the goods, they decide whether they like them. If they like them, then they pay you or they return it. You will not sell in e-commerce in Germany unless you do that. So you want to test it in a little way before you go all out and rebuild all those systems. So bullets then cannonballs. So what sort of bullets should you be looking at using should you be looking at testing in the world of e-commerce? How can you make it smaller? Create those bullets before you go after the cannonballs. Well, one, of course, is just to do kind of a mini version of your website. You don't have to have the full singing version. When you go overseas, you can just do a very simple website. Platforms out there which will allow you to roll out to other countries quite quickly, quite easily. Secondly, why not just pick a few of your products? You have to do your whole adverse to the point you won't know if it's a good idea or not. Also consider trialing on an Amazon or an eBay platform. They are in many, many countries around the world. There are huge numbers of businesses right now testing out another country by using a marketplace. And there are individual marketplaces in some specific countries too. What that enables you to do is to not worry about the marketing. You're putting your products on a site that already has the consumers, which takes a whole bit of your strategy out of the way. You can see if they like your product, see if they like your prices, see how it is to interact with people in that country. And if that works, then you can start doing the bigger investment, throwing the larger cannonballs in that direction in order to build that for you. So that is my 3 critical tips for e-commerce success selling overseas. Get your house in order. I've forgotten the second one. Do your research, of course, do your research. Thank you for the audience for prompting me there. And bullets before cannonballs. Don't think you've got to do everything perfectly on day one. Just do those little tests. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everybody. My name's Jim Standing, and I'm one of the directors of Fourth Element. My business partner's name's Paul Strike, and very briefly wanted to let you know what we do. And at the bottom of there, a little bit too small to read, is a quote from Jacques Cousteau, which should let you know that we are interested in the sport of diving, and we are arguably the world leaders in thermal protection for scuba divers. We're also a brand that scuba divers identify with. We set our business out to become not only the best at producing thermal protection and innovation, but also to create a brand, a lifestyle brand for scuba divers, to the point that these are not the only people to have our logo permanently tattooed on the body. There are quite a few scary people like that out there that I worry about their sanity whenever I meet them, to put a corporate logo on their body. But we set out to create a brand that people identify with through producing innovative products and putting them on people that were going off and adventuring in far-flung places. This is Doug Allen, some of you may know him as a BBC cameraman, filming an episode of Planet Earth for the BBC, wearing one of our products. The photo is not particularly clear on this. This photo, well, this is an artist's impression of a sunken city in China, and somebody diving to it. And my presentation, or the next 8 minutes or whatever I've got left, is based on actually our process of attempting to launch a brand and reach the customer in the Far East. And I actually wrote a few things down during Chloe's presentation, and in fact earlier than that, the human-to-human part, human-to-human side of things. This is very much, or rather our sport is very much based on a human-to-human interaction, introducing people to the sport as an instructor or a dive master or somebody who's really passionate about the sport. But our biggest market in the world is now South Korea, where their internet is who knows how many times faster it is than in Cornwall, but where they are entirely technically minded, they are driven by innovations in technology, and we wanted to reach this kind of customer, and we certainly attempted to reach a young, affluent, technologically minded consumer. And the bullets before cannonballs sort of point that Chloe made is absolutely critical, and we spent a long time trying to reach these customers without realizing that we were basically wasting our cannonballs. We do have a pretty solid following in South Korea. Our brand is probably the prestige in trading and online trading, which is cyber money. Out their transactions is scary to somebody who doesn't fully understand it, and certainly we didn't. Biggest challenge that we have is what is known officially as the Great Firewall of China, and what we set out with our cannonball, with a fantastic web design team and a partner who based in Singapore, but with a distribution point to build a website. We transitioned our website. We did a little bit more. Thank you, Chloe, for basically prompting the rest of this. Did a little bit more research. It was a very important factor in people's accessibility to it. Problematical to that is that our analytics in the background, and Facebook and Google, if they don't exist in China, they are actively blocked by the Great Firewall of China. And if the firewall sees a reference to Facebook, a link to Google Analytics, any of that sort of stuff, it's game over. You cannot, your site will not be seen, or it will be seen at such a mind-bendingly slow speed that you just get bored and you just switch off and you go somewhere else. So we actually had to then engage in actually building an entirely separate website, a standalone website that had no Facebook, it has no Google, and suddenly we were able to actually, and hosted in Hong Kong, and suddenly able to get beyond all of these constraints in order to reach a customer. What we then found, of course, is that Facebook and Google don't rule the roost there. So then we had the problem of how do we market to our end user? What are our channels for getting there? China's equivalent of Google is a company called Baidu, but to a non-native Chinese person, it's essentially gobbledygook, and they don't. Well, I mean, this is where I confess that I'm not really up to speed with all of the social media side of things in the English language, let alone in other languages. And having thought that from my trip to Singapore a year previously that WhatsApp was, I quickly realised that was totally passé, and that WeChat is the way that they communicate with each other, and mobile phones, essentially a huge amount of QR codes. QR codes are everywhere. People scan a QR code. They share their personal information in that way. They share business information in that way, and they communicate at a huge extent via WeChat. So very quickly, once we arrived in Beijing to launch our brand at a trade show, we quickly downloaded WeChat and started to, and again, were met with Chinese characters and a completely confusing array of means of communication. Fortunately, having partners in that country meant that we were able to at least trust them to carry out or to deliver our marketing. But the fundamental messages that we've learned reinforce everything that Chloe has just said. That the research is key, and that firing the bullets before the cannonballs to try and make sure that what you're trying to deliver is right is key. We thought that we would be launching a website with full e-commerce capabilities in September last year. Still, the e-commerce aspect still isn't working in China. Very, very, very close, but there are also, I think probably most of you will be aware of Alibaba having floated on the stock exchange and generated huge amounts of money. They essentially control the financial transactions within China. We were completely stunned by the fact that on our stand at this show, people were buying our products, but we never saw currency change hands. We never saw money change hands. And yet, our partners over there, the retailer selling our product, our distributor, were saying, "Oh yeah, we sold this and we sold that." I'm just looking around, going, "What's going on?" And everything was done with a click of a button on a phone. They scan a QR code, that's the bank details. They press a button to send money via a mechanism called Alipay. And suddenly we were in another area where our research had let us down, but equally our distributors and our partners out there, their research had let them down. It has all moved so quickly. And the other message that we've learned is that we have to be ready to move quickly, to move more nimbly out there, because the consumer over there is highly motivated, highly connected. They're certainly motivated, the scuba diving enthusiasts are certainly motivated to buy our product and buy into our brand. But it's not just a case of reaching them in terms of delivering our brand messages and our images. It's also a case of reaching them in terms of communicating with them effectively, and also reaching them and giving them the opportunity to actually part with their money, having the ability to conduct a financial transaction with them, and doing that successfully. So we've fumbled around. We think we're getting there, and we think we've reached a point where at least the Chinese consumer is able to interact with our brand on some level. But we're still learning, and I totally agree with pretty much everything that Chloe said. That applies not just to the e-commerce, but indeed just to delivering a message. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I've been talking all day today, so hopefully my voice will hang around for a little bit longer, and I'm driving, so I can't even have a beer to ease it up a bit. Just a few slides, really, just to bring you up to speed on some of the changes that we're expecting in the early part of this year. Andrew and myself had an annual trip to Dublin in December, and Google kindly shared a few secrets, a few innovations with us, and some of those we'll be able to reveal over the next few months. But as a summary, the things that we've brought back from that is now the introduction of automation scripts and something called programmatic buying that we're all going to be doing later on this year. This technology has been around for a little while, but it's really started to mature now. Many of you in the room and people online have got large advertising accounts that take a lot of time to look after, kind of care and attend to, and take a lot of your people's time up and your own time up. What model we believe that people are moving to now, and where things are looking like they're going, is to look at automation and script. So really you're curating your campaign, your advertising campaign, and you're setting rules, you're setting a plan for that. and then monitoring and modifying those scripts and those plans as it goes on. So within our own community online of agencies that we support, we're now going through development of introducing people to the different AdWords scripts and some of the other tools that are available to us to automate some of these tasks. Now, some of them are very, very straightforward. It might just be programming a change of an ad. So if you've got a Valentine's Day offer that's on, and you want that to finish on the 13th or 11 PM on the 13th probably, then you don't need to worry about it anymore. The ads can automatically turn off. If you've got stock, for example, on your website that comes in and out of stock, different products that come in and out of stock, you can now get your ads to stop running when you're out of stock and bring them back on when products come back in stock. But you can do much more intelligent stuff now as well. The APIs that we talked about last year, Analytics Real-Time API and the Prediction API and a few of these others, and also the AdWords API now being opened up to the wider world, which means that we can react to real-time data. So if somebody comes to our website now, as soon as they touch the site, we know how old they are, we know whether they're male or female, we know the sort of things they're interested in, and obviously we know the pages they're looking at. And we can now serve content up to them as they wander around the website that relates to the audience much more closely. We can also respond in ads to that now. We can show and target ads to people that fit a particular audience profile. And although costs are going up, costs are certainly going up in AdWords, and it's what people are telling us all the time. We want to stop going for what are those very, very specific long tail terms, if you want to use a more dated expression. We can stop going for those which are more expensive, go for some more general terms, but focus on exactly the people that we want. We've got a lot more control of the audience now. We know a lot more about them, and we can target our ads to those people for much more general terms. We can also now respond to external data, and we can dynamically serve ads based on business data. This has been around for quite a while for hotels. It's been around even longer for people who have e-commerce sites. But now we can put business data in there, and we can automate ads based on feeds of data, be they spreadsheet based or actually live data that's coming out of a site. So we can respond to a lot of things. So where we'll end up in probably about a year, maybe 18 months time, is the way that we manage our online campaigns will change quite considerably, because we'll be setting rules and changing those rules based on the data that we're seeing, and then just tweaking things as they're going, rather than manually changing things as and when we look at data and analyse it once a month or whatever. So that's where we think things are really going to change. Just a little excerpt. Programmatic marketing is something that we're going to see more of this year, and for those at the back, I'll just read it out. So programmatic marketing uses real-time systems, real-time data, rules and algorithms to automate the delivery of data-driven, targeted and relevant experiences to consumers they interact with brands' many touch points. So basically, we've got live data, and we can change the ads, we can change the content of websites, and we can alter what people see and encourage them to do different things based on how they behave and who they are. And that's going to be one of the biggest changes we're seeing this year, people moving towards that model. This technology has been around in DoubleClick for many years, but it's now coming out to pretty much every advertiser that's out there through the Google Display Network and a number of. Seeing almost all websites are seeing more traffic from mobile and tablet devices. On average, tourism is seeing about 60-65% of traffic coming from mobiles and tablets. E-commerce about 50-50, depending on the type of site. But what we are seeing now is a more connected and constantly connected consumer. There are people that hopefully not bored with and we see that a lot, and people are in meetings, on the phones, and people are out and about in the shop. They're constantly connected. You're watching TV, you're on you're double screening or triple screening in some cases. What we now know though is 90% of people switch between screens to complete tasks. So they might do a bit of research on their mobile device, but they might actually complete a booking or make a purchase on their desktop or laptop tablet, and they're jumping between these of the time, remarketed to by Nike, these trainers that you've looked at. And the way that he explained it is it's like going to a cinema with a young lady, you go and sit down, the cinema, the film starts going, and that was the way. It's, you know, you've all been there, I've had a look at that, I don't want to buy it, or I've bought it from somewhere else, I'm not interested. The approach we need to take is more of a ear nibbling approach. We need a bit of courting in my late Nan's language. We need to court the consumer. We need to guide them through that process and then take them to bed. So it's got to be gentle. So this technology is available to us, but don't abuse it, because that can be quite offensive to people. We looked at a search today as well for somebody who's looking for I think it was surf holidays in Indonesia. And we looked at just some of the ads, and Kuoni were there with, come. We've got other people who've come to some random place that you've never heard of, and we're not telling you whether it's in an and these were some big names. Kuoni, there were some of the big travel companies there. And when you go to their websites, they don't do surf holidays, they don't do Indonesia. And there's your opportunity to get in. Get in at the top of the funnel now, where you get people who are doing a bit of research, but we know about that user, we know a lot more about them, and we can give them a more appropriate message. And what we were seeing, to come to the end of this example, is for Nike, the term, it was the make and model and specific details of this trainer. It was like a 7 or 8 word term that somebody had been searching for, was about £1.76 a click. But the term marathon advice or marathon running advice was about 2 or 3 pence. Now it takes quite a lot of those 2 or 3 pences to get people all the way through with remarketing and the other stuff to get them to purchase at the end. But that traffic at the top of the tunnel now, those ads, those key phrases if you like at the top, and the display advertising is dirt cheap now, because people have moved away from it, they've forgotten about it, and they've focused on the long tail, they've focused on those very expensive terms. Everybody's in there and they're bidding lots of money for those really expensive terms and forgotten about the other stuff, which has made it cheaper. So think about the whole funnel and think about how people are constantly connected and how... I did warn you, nearly there. 38% of all consumer journeys, customer journeys, involve more than one channel of interaction. And we see this every day. We see people clicking on paid ads, we see people doing organic searches. When the big algorithm changes usually come in May, that is still on the cards to significantly affect rankings even more. It's still at a point where it's a small signal, but it's likely to improve. And that's me done, and that's my voice done. Thank you very much.
Could I ask our speakers just to come up, and we'll take some questions now? So they can see you guys, because you're the ones that should be in the frame. Should we have a question for Chloe or Jim first? Let Rob get his voice back before we fire anything else at him. Rory?
Do you do any air nibbling?
Oh.
All the time.
Never on stage.
Do they pay for it?
Usually.
I've got 2 clients that are multinationals, and the thing that they both suddenly, a little bit late, are suddenly realising they don't have in place is international bribery policies. Because if you're a UK company, your agent does something in a foreign country as normal there in terms of bribery, the director in the UK can go to jail. And that, in terms of research, is pretty scary, because they are trying to get in on these markets. And I don't know, I know it's not really web digital media related, but we're expanding both of them into markets where they're suddenly they're bricking it because they don't know how to compete when all their competitors that are only local based, that don't have a UK head office, have that constraint.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key parts of the research and why you need to start to. Everyone just, if they're going to go international, should start talking to the UKTI and Expert Cornwall and those groups. Is there are certain countries that, if you understand all the full system, the bribery issues, the payment issues, the way the consumers behave, the legal situation of it, you might actually go, well, the consumers really want our product, but the only way I'm willing to do business over there is via a third party. That can be a decision you make, or it can actually be a decision of not to go there. And so, which is why the research part is so important, to understand both where looks attractive and what are the big reasons we should consider before deciding if we even want to go there. Which can actually, sometimes it comes down to company values. Sometimes, if you're very much an organics or very much a truth and honesty brand, some countries it just is a bad fit for you to go into because it doesn't fit with your company values. So the research part is endless. And unfortunately,
from what I understood though, is if your agent is engaging in things that in the UK is corruption, that they're your appointed agent, you as the UK director are criminally liable.
Quite, but I'm neither a lawyer nor
it's just something that came up with two clients that we're doing stuff with, and they're suddenly like backpedaling like mad and trying to get their agents to sign off on this stuff, and their agents are just going, well, we can't do business then.
Yeah, and I think it's just like Jim said as well. A lot of it is you don't discover it until you're on the ground.
Yeah.
You have to get in there to find it out. But sorry.
That wasn't the case. Smith Point Beach, was it? It was the local guy on the ground that ended up in prison.
Yeah, but that's because they had a local guy on the ground. If they'd have gone via an agent, it would have been the agent. And Smithkline Beeching don't have the UK, aren't they? US based. Yeah.
But
The
the
US,
US,
the US
policies.
Yeah, but it's slightly different. No, it's just a really interesting one. We've got all this stuff and we want to export. We want to go and play with these countries and sell to their consumers. But suddenly you're going like, because I remember when I used to do stuff for British Airways years ago, they actually had in their budget, I can't remember what they called it. This is the allocation for bribery in this.
And how they actually dive into the water and are streamlined and reporting on sea life, hence the SHAG project. But I understand, and when I saw you talk, you said that this brought a lot of unexpected traffic to your site.
Yeah, it certainly did. And
the $6 million question is, did people buy off the back of it?
I honestly don't know. And yeah, in collaboration with University of Exeter's Biosciences Department based at Tremoe, we got involved with supporting a PhD project studying the diving behaviour of the European shag, and in an attempt to get our value added out of it, we sort of hosted his blog about what he was up to and told our consumer, which being scuba divers are quite interested in the anything that goes on in the sea, and we amusingly titled it the Shag Project. And it wasn't long before I got an email from the BBC from the One Show saying, yeah, we're interested in this Shag Project. And I was thinking, and I phoned them up. And I said, well, like, what on earth brought you to this project? Why do you get interested in this? So like, just a search. And I'm thinking, okay. Now, what were you searching for? And for sure, when we did the analytics and looked at what brought people to our site, lots of people, you had the term shag, and their time spent on our site was extremely brief. So I don't know whether we had, got very much business from it. I don't know if, I suppose potentially there is some connection with people being into rubber clothing and that sort of thing that may have actually, we could have had some little benefit from it. But frankly, I think it was just an amusing title.
Intended.
Exactly. Yeah, no, not really necessarily, not for that kind of diving anyway. So.
Rob, you said that got people kept visiting the sites, but you were straight away picking up age, location. Is that anybody turning up to any website, or is that based on your history going to that site?
The way it works now, if you look in analytics, you've got the demographic data there for, in the main, about 60% of users, you get that information. It's based on their previous search history within that browser, not the individual themselves, but previous search history, the sites they've looked at. If they are logged into a Google account or YouTube, then you get more detail in that as well. We don't have any personally identifiable information, but you do see the characteristics of that user on the site at that point in time.
Rob, you mentioned about nurturing, maybe through display or remarketing. Is it possible, or do you think it will become possible, where as you stalk the person who's been to your site, you can change the ad over time?
Yeah, that's already possible anyway now. So you can have a number of different lengths of remarketing lists, different remarketing lists based on people's activity or behaviour. You also have similar audiences now as well. So you can already do that.
A specific person comes to your site and then you target them with an ad.
Yeah.
Can you then say, okay, I want to run that for 7 days, and then in another 7 days I want to run another ad to the same guy?
Yeah, you can do that. That is possible to do. It would still be, you wouldn't identify that one individual, but they would be part of a list. So it'd be people who would meet the requirements of that. So anybody who fits into that. You wouldn't say Mr. Smith, if he comes back again, then was converted, or if they've looked at a different page of the site, or if we learn a little bit more about them, then we can alter the ads based on that behaviour. And one of the most common things that people are using that for now is if somebody, you've probably seen yourself, if you go to an airline site and dates and a flight, then to action there as well. But that's all available now.
Will they be able to tell if you bought it on another site?
Not at the moment. Yeah, not at the moment. That's one of the things we hear quite a lot is people are frustrated.
It's awful over Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it will be good when you can do that. The thing that's most likely to happen there is people will interact with the ad to say, stop this, I've already, and that's what we think is going to be, there are less privacy issues. There needs to be something that tells people.
Consumable and start remarketing about cartridges, for example.
Yeah. We do it a lot with all sorts of different types of businesses, and you have different lists. With that, you could say you could remarket to people who have bought a particular ink cartridge that you know typically only lasts for a certain amount of time. If they bought 2 of them, then you might extend that Internet of Things. Really, where we get data back from their computer that tells us what all sorts of other devices informing.
In terms of your time, Rob, is this taking more time than his to run somebody's campaigns, or
At the moment,
what worked well and why overseas training? Think of any ones that stand out?
There's no really obvious one that's coming to mind right now. Partly because there's just so much opportunity out there. Even the guys, this is probably one of the big ones. They've pretty much created an entire campaign on their own amongst Australian retailers to fight some tax laws, which is pretty much all against ASOS. They've mobilised the entire industry to fight against them. So much opportunity out there that's untapped. So there are a report that came out a couple of weeks ago looking at Amazon sellers, so just on the Amazon market. And if you're a Amazon seller, you can pretty much, I'm oversimplifying this, but you can hit a couple of buttons and you're selling in other European territories. It's incredibly easy to sell into other countries on Amazon. And the top Amazon sellers in each European country, pretty much only about 15% of them are selling in another European territory, despite the fact it's incredibly easy for them to do it. So if even those guys who are hitting buttons, they're not having to build new websites, they're not having to do the marketing, they're not having to do so much of the puzzle, aren't bothering to do it, then it's really, at the moment, there's so much opportunity, so much opportunity. That's my way of getting out of answering your question.
Is there a backwards thing, a cultural thing with British people? We live on an island, we'll buy stuff in Britain because it's English, whereas if you're Belgian, you expect to buy stuff in France and Germany and the Netherlands.
I think there is a culture. There's also the fact, of the bit which you've just explained, but there's also the fact that the rest of the world put a premium on anything that's British. Very broad statement,
but there is definitely a premium to the UK factor.
Especially from the Far East, definitely a huge premium to that. But add to that as well, that one of the reasons possibly why we're so good at selling stuff outside the country, there are more people that speak English than English people speak all these other languages. So the language of business dictates, to a certain extent, where the business takes place. And so if it's easy for people to understand our website, like if I visit a Belgian website, if it's in Flemish, I've got no chance. If it's in French, I've got a passable GCSE-ish chance of getting anything done. Whereas the average the average Dutch person's English is pretty amazing, and so they can actually transact on our websites much more easily, and therefore the market is already there. The consumer for our products, because it's in our language, is there. I think that's a really big factor as well.
And currency for you?
Currency for us is a nightmare. I mean, we trade in euros, dollars, and pounds, and we have a natural hedge in our customers pay us in that, and we have bills in those things. But we're just in the process of attempting to launch a US dollar e-commerce site to sell some of our products in the States, because they won't buy in pounds. The Americans don't want to get their heads around buying something in British pounds. And we have a customer who is an exceptional e-commerce retailer based in Spain, and they sell our products and products within our sector and many other sports sectors. And their website is beautifully designed to pick up where the customer is, what language they speak, they work in, and do all of that stuff. And the ability to look at a number and intrinsically understand its value, I think, is critical. And I think that so having an understanding of the currency is important, and what somebody's comfortable with spending. Especially, for example, the euro-pound exchange rate. Obviously, it's shifting a lot at the moment, but equally, you just put a number in euros and it sounds bigger. 20 quid is 24 euros. It immediately is that little bit. And when they're close in those things, people will look at something in maybe somebody in Europe will look at something in pounds and actually think it's cheap because they to make the mental conversion. So that could actually be of an advantage as well in looking at people buying stuff in pounds.
Aware of what Export Cornwall can deliver. It's an ERDF funded programme. It does actually finish in March, so it sort of progresses on from Export Cornwall, but I think there is likely to be a gap in progressing in international markets. Now is the take advantage of what Export Cornwall have got to offer. Try and tell you what's running between now and the end of March. I know Rob and I think it's all great having a digital platform and that side of things, but then there are one of the things we can do is help you to understand, I suppose, what the opportunities are out there and possibly the way to put models together to deal with that. For anybody who is interested in actually starting export and perhaps just wants to explore the opportunities of it, there is actually next Thursday, location actually escapes me at the moment, but it is on the website called Explore Your Export Potential. And that's a full day of actually looking at the opportunities offered by international trade and how you move that forward. Now, do stress something. An export, just so that we're absolutely clear about the conversation here, is anything that generates any form of income from an overseas market. So you can make a telephone call and get paid for it. That's an export. So please don't think that, Export Cornwall and UKTI deal with physical things. We don't. I mean, I spend a vast majority of my time talking to service businesses and talking to digital businesses about how they might structure their businesses moving forward. Also, you've just been talking about e-commerce, using e-commerce platforms to sell someone locally to be hosting. You could be hosting the site, get somebody locally there to do optimization. You could get somebody locally to ways that you can use this imaginatively. So any of you are interested in that, we would really love to talk to you. But great to see so many of you here. I'm not going to take any more of your time.
Just a final reminder to just complete the first table in the forms, just as a record that you were here tonight for me, and if you can just drop them on the table before you leave. And thanks again. Okay.